Hey, what's up everyone? Stewart here. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look at 2 ways to make a crossover rack. Okay, these are not new techniques. There's nothing I really came up with. They've been demonstrated elsewhere on YouTube, but we're going to use them moving forward, so I want to make sure that I have them ready to go and also that you have them ready to go in your user library. Okay, so we're going to pop back over into Ableton here. Let's minimize and turn off our MS starter rack from last week. All right, we're going to go into our audio effects and grab a multiband dynamics. This is the first way. It's probably the quicker of the two and a little bit more straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and use Command G to group that, put it in a rack. I'm going to show our macros and our chains. A few things I want to make sure that we do just off the bat. I'm going to pull the amount down to 0. This is going to be kind of step 1 to make sure that no dynamic processing happens. Step 2 is we're going to go to our below thresholds and pull them all the way down and make sure all our ratios are at 1 to 1. Then we're going to go into our above thresholds, push them all the way up. Again, check that our ratios are 1 to 1. Now, this is going to make sure that it doesn't do any dynamic processing no matter what. Then I can go ahead and duplicate this chain twice. And call the first one high, second one mid, and the bottom one low. And again, I'm just using Command R to rename those. Okay, in the high one, let's solo the high band. The mid one will solo the mid band, and the low one, surprise, surprise, we solo the low band. Now we want to make sure that all our crossover frequencies stay in sync. So we're going to map these to a couple macros so we have simple top level control over them. So we're going to take our mid-high crossover frequency and let's use again those last 2 macros. So we'll map that to macro 7. We'll do it in the mid band as well. And in the low band just again, so everything stays in sync. Excuse me. And then we want to do the same for our low-mid crossover points. So let's do that to macro 8. Again, in the mid band and on the low band. Okay, at this point we can pretty much hide our multiband dynamics. We can even hide the chains if we want and take it back. We got to do some mapping in here. So this is going to be a little bit down to personal taste, but pick some frequencies that you want. You can go absolutely as wide as you want. Now this means that you can have some crossover, which is a little weird. So I wouldn't necessarily set it up like this. Typically, my preference would be, I'm going to say I probably don't want my low band to be below 90, and I think probably want to max out at like 250. All right, so I'm just going to do that for all these low mid crossovers. Set the minimum to 90 and the max to 250. All right, and then I probably want my mid-high. I doubt I want it starting much below 2000, but let's say 1500, 1.5K just for kicks. All right, so we'll set these all to 1500. And if I set it above 10K, that would be really weird. Probably if I set it above 8K, that would be weird, but let's say 10. 10K. Whoops, missed a 0. 10K. All right. Now we can adjust our crossover points and we can draw processing on each of these chains to do any sort of stuff we want. I'm gonna set my default. That doesn't look right. Oh, you know what? I just did these in the reverse order that I was thinking. That doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm gonna set my default mid-high crossover. Let's say 2.5K. So there, and my low mid to, oh, I don't know, 150. That's probably a nice default. I think I'm gonna like that. And then I will hide my chains, and I'm gonna call this three-way crossover starter MBD for multiband dynamics. All right, so that's the first one. Whoops, that's not a 3 at the beginning. That's a pound sign. Okay. Or a hashtag for all you kids. All right, so that's the first one. Cool. Let's go ahead and throw that in our advanced processing. Three-way crossover, multiband dynamics. All right, there's that. Let's minimize that, turn it off. All right, the next way is a little more involved. We're gonna start with audio effects EQ8. All right, and this method uses phase cancellation. Now, I'm a little bit at a loss to explain why, but I have tested this, and it seems like it works out to be linear phase, which doesn't really make sense, but somehow it works out. So in theory, this is a cleaner way to cross over your material. Honestly, I've never found using the multiband way to be a problem, but this potentially is a little more transparent. So what we're going to use is just low pass and high pass filters. I am not that fond of the 4 times, or what is it? It's a 4-pole filter, I guess. Either the high pass or the low pass. I find them to be less transparent, but you can use them if you really want. But I'm just going to switch both of those to the regular high pass and low pass. I'm going to go ahead and right click on the title bar, make sure that oversampling is on. Okay, cool. Now let's go ahead, group this, put it in a rack, show our chains and our macros. All right. Now we're going to have to get some racks within racks, do some rackception here, okay? But on our first one, let's just start off and make this our lows, all right? We're going to turn on our low pass filter, and let's pull it down. Let's use that frequency that we used before, 150. Okay, now let's duplicate this and name this one highs. We could move it. No, not there. Move it to the top if we want, just so it's in the same order. This one, we're going to turn off our low pass and turn on our high pass. And I don't remember where I set that other one, but let's do 2,500 on this one. I guess I could look. I just did it. It's right here. Yeah, 2.5K. Okay. So that'll be set the same. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new chain, and we'll call this mids. And let's nestle it in the middle there. Now in here, let's start by selecting our high band here. I'm going to hold Option as I drag it and add it to the mids, and then I'm going to select it and Command G, and I'm going to make a rack within a rack. Okay. And let's call this, let's call it invert high. All right. Then we're going to grab our lows. Let's actually make another chain in here. First, call it invert low. Okay. Then we're going to grab our lows. Again, click on it, hold Option, drag it in here, and put it on our invert lows. Okay, grand. Now let's make a new chain and call this one dry. No, let's call it mid. Yeah, mid's good. Okay, now we're going to come onto our invert high. We're going to grab utility, stick it after the EQ, and we're going to invert phase on both left and right channels, which is basically flipping the polarity of the whole signal. Then we're going to click on that, hold Option, drag it over to the invert low, and dupe to dupe, that's that. Okay, so now let's just think about what's happening here. We've got the highs coming through and being high passed, right? Then we've got down here, we've got the lows coming through and being low passed. Then on our mid chain, we've got the whole thing going straight through clean, because on this mid channel we have nothing. That's just an extra chain. Then we've got the low pass lows and we're inverting them, so we're subtracting basically the lows. So we're ending up with the original signal minus what's going through here. And then on the highs, we're taking that high pass signal and inverting that and subtracting that from the full band signal. So it leaves us with just the mids. Okay? If you didn't totally follow that, don't worry. But just a kind of clever way of using phase cancellation to make a crossover. All right, now we want to go ahead and map frequencies to macros, and we got to make sure that they all stay in sync. All right, so we're going to start with our high crossover, and let's do it the same way we did the other one. So we'll map it to macro 7. And then in the invert high, we need to grab it there. And this is a rack within a rack. So we'll map it to the same macro. And then we have to map this macro. Oh boy. Yeah, this is where it gets a little messy. All right. You know what? Let's just go ahead and do them all first. Okay, we'll do the lows. We'll do a frequency on our low, and we'll do that to macro 8. Okay, we have to set these up. So we're going to go in our high frequency 1,500 to 10,000. Our low frequency 90 to 250. Did I hit something extra? 90? No. Okay, that's good. Okay, that should be that. Out here, we have our high frequency mapped there. We want to map our low frequency to macro 8. We're going to go ahead and do these the same way. So our highs will be from 1,500 to 10,000. Our lows will be from 90 to 250. Okay, and now, excuse me, if we go back into our mid rack here, we should be able to map this and that. And unfortunately, we lose our frequency with display, but if we now, yes, sorry, spacing out. If we change our low to, let's try and get it to, well, let's turn it up to 200. And then if we look at our lows here, they're, or 250, sorry. They're at 250. This is at 250. And if we manipulate our highs and turn them up to 10K and we look at our highs here, this is at 10K. Our highs here are at 10K. Everything should stay in sync. All right, so let's lastly rename these. We'll call this mid, high frequency, and we'll call this one low, mid frequency. And let's color them both. Sure, that color. You know what? I forgot to color these. Let's do them the same color since they're also crossovers. Mid-high, mid-high. This is crossover. Let's change this to frequency. Just get everything looking nice and tidy. Mid-high frequency, low, mid frequency. All right. And lastly, let's set this to right around 2.5K and the lows to right around 150 and hide stuff. Rename the rack. 3-way crossover starter, and we'll call this one what do we want to call this one? PC, phase cancellation. Cool. Go ahead and throw that in our user library and advanced processing. Cool. There's that. Minimize that, turn it off. All right. Whew. That was a lot. Stick with me. I know, I kind of bumbled through it, but I wanted you guys to see the process. I could have just made it ahead of time and tried to just talk you through it, but I wanted you to actually see the process and try and work through it with me. All right. Hopefully that was worth it. Next week, we're gonna get into some of the fun stuff where we use these racks that we've already made and do some cool new processing techniques. All right, thanks. See you next week.